Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to get started. This is Tuesday, October 3rd, of course. It's a beautiful fall evening, but we're extremely pleased to welcome you all. Of course, these meetings are being live streamed as per usual on our YouTube page, and they are live streamed through the municipal website. And if you have any interest in making a delegation moving forward, you can always email our clerk at clerk@northgrenville.on.ca. And I believe, Chloe, this is your first meeting in this building, correct? So we'd like to take a minute to recognize and offer another warm welcome to Ms. Chloe Preston, who was recently retained as our clerk and has hit the ground running. So we appreciate that. So I'll look to a council colleague to read our land acknowledgement, please. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Go ahead.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe. We honor the historic relationship of the Haudenosaunee and Huron-Wendat peoples to this land. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with all Indigenous peoples, and we look forward to continuing this conversation and fostering the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. So before we begin with the formalities, I did want to take a minute to recognize those of you in the room and our staff team who worked extremely hard on a 25th anniversary celebration a week ago. We know we had some community groups in the audience as well, and it was really a team effort. Dr. David Shanahan couldn't be here, but did prepare a wonderful presentation that was offered by Tom Graham in his place, but it was a real constellation of community leaders and elected officials and some youth, among others, who came together to mark 25 years. At that time, as some of you know, I was presented with North Grenville's mayoral chain of office. And I would like to take the opportunity this evening to thank Mr. Roy Brown, who couldn't join us last Tuesday. And Mr. Brown was one of the passionate citizen advisors who's been working diligently on recognizing and highlighting North Grenville's history and the history of the townships that now make up North Grenville. He really advanced the idea of ensuring that North Grenville finally, after 25 years, secured a chain of office. And as some of you know, that chain of office will serve this municipality for the next 100 years, if not more. It was first presented to me last Tuesday by former Mayor Bruce Harrison, and I'm very grateful to former Mayor Bruce Harrison for his graciousness and his leadership. Of course, we weren't able to have everyone together last Tuesday, but the constellation of players we had was very much appreciated. But with this in mind, we thought because Roy couldn't be with us last Tuesday, we wanted to give him an opportunity to present the chain of office. So this evening, for my first council meeting, wearing the chain of office, I'm going to be joined by the clerk, and we'll have the presentation of the mayoral chain of office. And again, I want to express my appreciation to Roy for his commitment and dedication to the municipality and for getting things underway when it came to our chain of office. So we'll just do that very quickly right now. So thank you to Roy again, and I keep emphasizing this is not my chain of office. As you know, this is very much attached to the mayoral office for any of our future mayors, and it will serve the municipality very, very well. So it's an honor, of course, for me to wear it while I continue to serve, but ultimately it's a legacy piece to recognize all those that are coming after me, and I'm really pleased that we'll have it for the generations to come. So thank you again to Roy. With that, I'll just move on to some quick remarks. Of course, on Saturday, we had a wonderful community gathering at Ferguson Forests for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. It's the first time we've had it in Ferguson Forests. The day, of course, is to recognize and commemorate the tragic history and ongoing legacy of residential schools. So we certainly want to extend our sincere appreciation to members of staff, including Ms. Hilary Junot, who supported the Indigenous Advisory Circle in putting together some key elements of the event on Saturday. We had about 100 people in Ferguson Forest coming together, many wearing orange shirts. And while I wasn't able to be there, I was out of town, unfortunately. It was a very, I think, fitting way to recognize such an important day. We also got to feature some wonderful Indigenous leaders, as well as musicians. So we hope to build on this event so that in future years we do hold it at Ferguson Forest, because I think is a wonderful location to bring people together, to learn, to reflect, and I think to plan together on how we mark this particular day, but also pursue reconciliation overall. So thank you very much. Also, just very quickly, we had an affordable housing summit this past Friday. It was co-hosted by the Municipality of North Grenville and the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. I would like to very much extend my appreciation to Ms. Martin, who worked with her colleague at the counties to put together a really wonderful, stimulating day of discussion about affordable housing. We had 200 people in the room. It was a sold-out event. All of the proceedings from that day have been recorded and will be on our website soon. But given the crisis we find ourselves in with affordable housing, a very, very timely and I think insightful event. So thank you, Ms. Martin, for your work. I know it was many months in the planning, and it really went off without a hitch. And then finally, of course, this weekend is Thanksgiving, so we hope you do get to spend time with family and friends and enjoy some of this beautiful fall weather we're having, or summer/fall weather, depending on how you see it. But it's been a gorgeous fall so far. So with that, I'm going to ask council colleagues for a motion to move our agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Barclay, Councillor Strachan, thank you very much. So I'll look to have the council agenda for October 3rd, 2023 be approved as presented. Any comments or concerns, colleagues, on the agenda? Not seeing any, then I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. So next is our disclosures of interest. Colleagues, any disclosures of interest in regards to perceived or real financial benefit or loss arising from tonight's meeting? Seeing no declarations, we'll move on to our presentations. And as many of you know, we're here for a very special presentation of the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers. And it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce someone I've gotten to know over the last few years, Mr. Peter Milsom. And Mr. Peter Milsom will be introducing the award and the recipient of this very special award. So I have asked Peter Milsom, as a retired naval captain and as a past president of the Kemptville Branch Navy League of Canada, and as my fellow nominator, to introduce this prestigious award and its recipient. In his 38 years with Defense, 32 in naval uniform, Peter has led, as Director or Director General, 7 large, complex organizations, each with budgets in the tens of millions of dollars and with up to 1,200 employees. He left government in 1996 to form and lead a successful federally incorporated and trademarked management consulting firm. Mr. Milsom retired from active business in 2015. For many years, he has served on and often chaired boards and committees with a long list of veterans and volunteer organizations. I think we can recognize that Mr. Milsom is well acquainted with the importance of volunteering and is the absolutely right person to introduce this recipient. Come forward, Mr. Milsom. So, Mr. Milsom, if you could turn on one of those mics.
So people can be heard, isn't it? Something like that.
There we go. That's perfect.
Is that on?
Yes.
He carefully coached me to stand close to it, of course. I wandered by. That figures. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a special evening. Now, I've been asked to introduce the two functions here. First, to introduce the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers, and secondly, to introduce the person who is to be the recipient. Excuse me. Passion, dedication, commitment to task and to purpose, and commitment to community. That's what this is all about. These are the driving forces behind the volunteers who receive the Sovereign's Medal for volunteering. Specifically, this medal recognizes the exceptional volunteer achievements of Canadians from across the country, and by the time, with a very wide range of national, provincial, local, municipal enterprises and organizations, and it pays tribute to the dedication and the commitment of volunteers within these organizations. It's a very special award. These volunteers, they embody for the rest of us, everyone, the caring country that we are members of and that we belong to, and that we Canadians aspire to build. There are enormous numbers of wonderful volunteers serving the community, youth, and charitable organizations. We have some of them in front of you. These people, to a person, all deserve acknowledgement. In this case, the rigorous review and the scrutiny of nomination for this award by the Chancellery of Honours at Rideau Hall assures that the Sovereign Medal goes only to the exceptional individual achievements in volunteering. We gathered this evening to celebrate, pay tribute to one such highly accomplished Canadian volunteer. Now, the recipient is sitting before you, Naval Lieutenant Jay Tusaw. You'll note that Lieutenant Tusaw wears a Canadian decoration, which recognizes at least 12 years of honored service as a serving Canadian naval officer, volunteering to serve the needs, the care, and the development of our Canadian youth, in particular, these regions' young boys and girls. He should be admired for this. But that doesn't count here. In this case, this is for unpaid volunteer service. He is modestly paid by the Government of Canada for the hard work he does for the cadets. So what makes Jay exceptional? In a nutshell, he has over 30 years of hugely layered, broadly based, consistently successful, unpaid volunteer work. And this service to a wide number of communities. He's quite an exceptional character. No less than 7 chief executives of disparate organizations, of different communities and gatherings have personally contributed the strongest heartfelt praise and high compliments to this individual for his outstanding contributions and achievements in leadership roles with their organizations. Excuse me. And a number of situations where his contributions earned him the election of the top executive. So he's had a lot of very broad approbation by a lot of very meaningful organizations, be it the Freemason movement, be it the Scouts program, on community recreation or community association executives, the Cub Scouts program, the Kemptville Service of Kemptville branch, the Royal Canadian Legion, in leading an important role of fundraising, and incidentally, which he is now the president. And as branch president, and in those former roles and everything he has done, he has unwaveringly excelled. There are many other examples. What it adds up to is an extraordinary record of achievement and accomplishment as a volunteer. This richly deserves to be recognized. Madam Mayor, you could join me, Her Excellency the Governor General. Her Excellency the Governor General, who has the Right Honorable Mary Simon, she graciously acceded to the recipient's request that the medal be presented, not at Rideau Hall, but which is customary, but rather in his own community. So we asked the co-signer of the nomination documents that recommended this honor, our own Mayor Nancy Pickford, and make the presentation on behalf of the community to the recipient of the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers. Your Honor, Your Worship. It's going to be interesting that it's free to go, and hopefully it's open. That's got it.
We'll just get Councilor Luke.
I'm running for cover here.
You stand forward, the mayor is in front of your medal.
Thank you. Forward. Move forward.
Jason, chair, step forward. Move all the way up.
throughout the pandemic, Peter was keeping me apprised on engagement with the Governor General's office as he worked assiduously to ensure that this particular nomination was not forgotten. So thank you, Peter, for bringing it to my office, and congratulations again to Mr. Tusaw. Thank you. Take care. Okay, so we're going to move on. Thank those who came for that particular presentation. Next, we are going to recognize or ask Council to recognize Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day. So I'll read the motion that was shared with the clerk's office. That is, whereas years of research confirms the benefits of high-quality early learning and childcare for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, physical development, and later life outcomes. Whereas childcare promotes the well-being of children in response to the needs of families and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their communities. Whereas trained and knowledgeable registered early childhood educators and childcare staff are the key to quality in early learning and childcare programs. And whereas registered early childhood educators and childcare workers will be vital to the success of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, be it resolved that on October 17th, 2023, be designated as the 23rd Annual Childcare Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day, in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of childcare workers to children, families, and the quality of life of communities. So in the absence of a delegation, I think we're looking for a mover and a seconder for the declaration, please. Deputy Mayor Barclay, Councillor Wilson, thank you. The motion's been read. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. I should note, colleagues, that unfortunately, in North Grenville and throughout the United Counties, it is very, very difficult to secure licensed childcare right now. Many families are struggling, looking at 1-2-year wait lists to, in fact, secure childcare within North Grenville or throughout the United Counties. We have been working hard to increase the number of licensed childcare spaces. In the region, MPP Steve Clark has been very supportive at securing more spaces given the acute shortage. I have encountered families recently where a parent has had to resign or has lost their job because they haven't been able to secure childcare. The implications are real. They are economic as much as familial, and I'm very hopeful that moving forward, we will see the creation of more childcare capacity throughout the counties, but certainly here in Kemptville, which is a very, and North Grenville, which is obviously a very high growth area, and we're attracting lots of families, which is wonderful, but if we can't assist them in securing childcare, I can assure you some of them will not be staying very long if they don't have what is really a fundamental service or access to what many consider a fundamental service. So we're hopeful that things will get better, and we want to extend our appreciation to everyone who is a childcare provider or supports the system. Finally, in terms of delegations, we did receive an invitation earlier today for the declaration of the International Day of the Girl. This is a day that has been recognized by the United Nations. It was actually Federal Minister Rona Ambrose a number of years ago while she served as Minister for Status of Women federally and had a role at the United Nations that was the key advocate for the establishment of the Day of the Girl, particularly to raise awareness about the plight of girls in the Global South, but not exclusively. So we have a delegation, and it was Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada that invited North Grenville to, in fact, make this declaration. Ms. Preston, would you like to read this one? I'll take a break. Okay. Go ahead, and then we'll look for a mover and seconder.
Whereas the United Nations has declared October 11th as International Day of the Girl, and whereas there is growing recognition around the globe that support for girls and equality is key to healthy communities, and whereas the Day of the Girl is about highlighting, celebrating, discussing, and advancing girls' lives and opportunities across the globe. Whereas declarations of support raise awareness about the importance of the International Day of the Girl and the issues faced by girls. Whereas the Girls Inc. is an organization that works with hundreds of girls every year to inspire them to be strong, smart, and bold leaders and advocates for equality so that girls can live, work, and be safe in their communities and for their futures. And whereas Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada focuses on the development of the whole girl to learn to value herself, take risks, and equips girls to navigate gender, economic, and social barriers and grow up healthy, educated, and independent. And whereas the municipality of North Grenville joins Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada and other organizations and believes that girls have the right to be themselves and to resist gender stereotypes, that girls have the right to express themselves with originality and enthusiasm, that girls have the right to take risks, to strive freely, and to take pride in success, that girls have the right to accept and appreciate their bodies, that girls have the right to have confidence in themselves and to be safe in the world, and that girls have the right to prepare for interesting work and economic independence. And now, therefore, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of North Grenville do hereby proclaim October 11th, 2023 as International Day of the Girl in North Grenville.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Wilson, thank you. Any questions or concerns in regards to International Day of the Girl? We want to thank Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada. They do some programming in North Grenville and some important advocacy, and we're grateful that they brought this to our attention. So we have a mover and a seconder. In the absence of any further comment, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Good. Thank you. That passes. So next, we have our consent agenda. As you'll see, items listed under the consent agenda, colleagues, are considered routine and no longer require a further discussion. As such, they are enacted in one motion. If any member of council wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda, they can do so now. Any suggested removals, colleagues? Seeing none, I will then look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the consent agenda. Councillor Wilson, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Without further comment, then, I will call the vote. All in favor? Good. Thank you. We'll move on. We have our reports from the Office of the CAO. I'd like to note that our CAO had knee surgery today, so she is not with us, but she came out of surgery looking good and is there were no unexpected developments, and she's at home for a couple of weeks recovering from knee surgery. But I want to thank her colleagues who are here this evening and will provide various reports. We'll move on then. We are not dealing with Local Government Week because we have just consented to it, but I believe that we are inviting from Chief Oakham a proclamation in regards to Fire Prevention Week.
Thank you very much, Mayor Peckford. Good evening to you and council and the public. As Fire Prevention Week commences next week, this staff report is requesting council to proclaim the week of October 8th through the 14th as Fire Prevention Week in North Grenville. We use this opportunity to bring about awareness of fire and life safety. Fire Prevention Week is an annual program that is promoted nationwide by fire departments, municipalities, businesses, and institutions as a means to draw awareness to fire and life safety. The National Fire Protection Association, also known as the NFPA, is a non-for-profit, self-funded organization that was established in 1896, who are devoted to eliminating death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire, electrical, and related hazards. The NFPA prepares an annual safety campaign for Fire Prevention Week. Fire Prevention Week is observed each year during the week of October 9th. Next slide, please. This year, Fire Prevention Week runs from Sunday, October 8th, and until Saturday, October 14th. Next slide. Staff requests Council to take this opportunity to recognize the importance of Fire Prevention Week through this public meeting of Council to proclaim Fire Prevention Week in the municipality of North Grenville. Rather than have an automatic annual reoccurring proclamation, we like to use this opportunity to highlight the importance of the program, as well as share the theme for the given year. Awareness by means of this proclamation, communications, and public education programs help to promote by informing everyone about fire and life safety in our community. Next slide, please. This year, the theme for Fire Prevention Week is Cooking Safety Starts With You. Pay attention to fire prevention. Next slide. Why is the theme about cooking safety? Public education programs are developed based on community risk. When officials identify concerning trends in our community, the goal is to raise awareness of a problem with the hopes to change community behavior and increase knowledge. The NFPA identified that cooking fires are the leading cause of home fires and home fire injuries. The NFPA further identified that unattended cooking is the leading cause of cooking fire and death. Here in Ontario, cooking continues to be the leading cause of residential fires, according to the Office of the Ontario Fire Marshal. This information tells us that cooking fire safety remains a significant risk nationally. Next slide, please. I've provided a graph, that provides a snapshot of structure fire losses in Ontario for a 10-year study period between 2012 and 2021. Of all the determined causes in Ontario, we can see that cooking was the leading cause compared to other classifications. Next slide, please. In this next graph, I am highlighting statistics regarding fire losses here in North Grenville by fiscal year. I'd like to note that the losses that we show for 2023 are reported up to the end of August of this year, with 4 months still remaining. And I can confirm that one residential fire loss here in North Grenville was a result of cooking earlier this year. This fire incident also resulted in a reportable civilian injury. Next slide, please. As I conclude my presentation this evening, we recommend that Council proclaim October 8th to 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week in the municipality of North Grenville. Through the public proclamation and local public education, our community will benefit from the awareness and knowledge achieved regarding cooking fire safety. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief, very much. I'll recognize Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Chief Oakham. Thank you for that presentation, and we certainly all must be aware of this. I just wonder if you have an explanation for the reason that the fire losses in 2021 were significantly less than any of the other years. Is there any identifiable reason for that?
Thank you for the question, Councillor O'Sullivan. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor O'Sullivan. The answer in quick is no. There was no true identified reason that the fire losses in 21 were considerably less than other years. Other than we did report during my annual report that year that the pandemic may have been a reason where people were at home, more cognizant of the goings-on every day in their home, and that may have reduced fires, but that is not confirmed. That was only a thought that we had in 2021. Also, I must note with the fire losses, as well. These are based on estimations, and of course, as the pricing of homes and buildings continue to rise, the numbers may also rise with those numbers. So that's also a contributing factor as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Oakham. Just very quickly, I appreciated your breakdown of what actually causes a fire, particularly in a home, because there's obviously many different things at play. I know that cooking fires are the most dominant, if I gathered from that chart. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So with that in mind, what's the number one thing people can do to prevent that cooking fire from happening? I know I live in a house with a natural gas stove, so it presents all sorts of risks, of course, so vigilance is so key. But from your perspective and working with your fire information officer, what do you think is the most powerful thing someone can do to prevent that kitchen fire?
Thank you for the question, Madam Mayor. I think this is probably fairly easy to answer, and that's distractions. I think it's, in today's society, we're easily distracted by, our devices, social media, friends coming by, and if we're cooking meals for family and friends, it's easy to go in another room and become distracted. So. Really, the message is if you're cooking, to remain where you're cooking, and if you need to leave, you need to turn the stove off and be cognizant of those risks.
Yes, distracted driving and distracted cooking, eh? Okay, thank you very much. Just lastly, in the absence of other hands, how did the day go where we're testing the batteries? I presume it's behind us now, is that right?
Yes, the September 28th first initial Test Your Smoke Alarm Day in Ontario has come and gone. We had a lot of participants, and I know our fire prevention officer was working with a lot of community members to ensure that they did the test. I could tell you I tested my alarms and they're working fine. So I think it was a very successful program, and we're hoping to hear some feedback from the Office of the Fire Marshal later in the year to hear some good news stories of the event.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. So council colleagues, I'll look for a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation entitled Proclaim Fire Prevention Week and to proclaim October 8th to 14th as Fire Prevention Week in the municipality of North Grenville. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Strachan, Councillor Sullivan, thank you. And before I call the vote, I know that there's a open house. I'm not sure if you mentioned it. In the next couple of weeks to introduce our residents in our community to our fire volunteers and our wonderful fire hall, et cetera. Is that right?
That's right, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to raise that very quickly. During the week of Fire Prevention Week, it'll be Thursday, October 12th at the North Grenville Fire Station here on County Road 44. We will be having our annual open house, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We're asking people, because there is limited parking, to park here at the Municipal Centre and walk down the path to the fire station. We'll have some events, some displays. Sparky will be there. We are going to also have a few demonstrations. There will be an auto extrication demonstration, and I believe we're going to have a kitchen fire safety demonstration for the theme of this year. I'd also quickly like to note, Madam Mayor, you may recall in September we had a presentation and a raising of the flag for childhood cancer, and they were passing the boot around the community for awareness. We've asked for the boot to come to our open house on that evening. We will be there with fire boots, and anybody that comes, if they'd like to make a donation to childhood cancer, we will gladly take donations, and we will turn that over to that cause for that evening. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
No problem. So motions on the floor. I'll call the vote. All in favor, please. Thank you very much. I know the open house is very well received every year, so looking forward to it. All right, so we will move on. The one other item on our agenda this evening, colleagues, is our stop sign installation, Marlin Road at Town Line Road, and I believe, Mr. Finley, you're speaking to this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report in front of council tonight is for the installation of a stop sign at Marlin Road and Town Line Road, where there's currently a yield sign there. Next, Marlin Road is located just east of the 416, kind of southeast of the town of Kemptville, and ties in with Town Line Road. So this map just shows you an aerial view of where we're looking at, of where the yield sign currently is. The municipality received some complaints in regards to the yield sign that's currently installed at this location. So an evaluation was done in terms of intersection visibility and in terms of sightline assessments and the intersection itself on what the requirements were. Next slide, please. Based on the analysis, it was viewed that the sightline requirements for a yield sign, because there is an actual stop at that location, you need quite a bit of distance in the road you're crossing into to ensure there's no traffic. Those warrants weren't quite met. However, the stop sign warrants due to volume of traffic were met. Next slide, please. So based on the sightline limiting distances that were at this location, it is the recommendation that a stop sign be installed here in replacement of that yield sign, and that be put into the stop sign bylaw to be enforced. And that is the conclusion, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Council colleagues, any questions here? We know we get lots of requests for stop signs, so this is one where you obviously felt it was warranted, so we're happy to see that the assessment was undertaken and this conclusion was reached. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Finley. This may be a question for the CAO who's not here, so feel free to pass it on, but if it meets all the assessments and warrants, why does it need to have to come to council? Is it because there's a sort of a global bylaw involving stop signs, and we have to amend the bylaw each time a stop sign is erected?
So through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct, Deputy Mayor. There is for a stop sign to be enforced officially, there is a bylaw that has to be passed which locates the area where the sign is erected. Otherwise, it cannot be enforced. So because of the change to the bylaw, that's why we're coming to council.
Good question, Deputy Mayor. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we will look for a mover and a seconder that council approve and enact bylaw 9223 to amend Schedule A and Schedule B to bylaw 3722 to approve the establishment and enforcement of a stop sign eastbound on Marlin Road at Town Line Road. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. That is moved and seconded. Seeing no further questions, colleagues, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Good. Thank you. So believe it or not, that brings us to the end of the substantive business for our meeting this evening. I have no other business on the agenda. Is that right, Ms. Preston? Okay. Notice of motions. Any notice of motions? Seeing none. Introduction and consideration of bylaws. I believe that we have dealt with all those. Is that right? Thank you. And then questions from members of our community and or members of the media. Everyone okay? Yeah? All right. Then we're going to close the meeting at a remarkable 7:23 p.m. Cherish it, colleagues. I'm not sure it's going to happen again. Okay, close the meeting. Let's not delay. That bylaw 9423 to confirm proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on October 3rd, 2023 be adopted and passed. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Strachan, Councillor Wilson. Thank you. Non-debatable motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Thank you. Ms. Preston, is this your work? Meetings are going to get dramatically shorter? Yeah, exactly. So we're not done yet. That was confirmation. Motion to adjourn. That would be at 7:24 p.m. I'll look to Deputy Mayor, who's eager to leave the room, and Councillor Sullivan to move a second. Thank you very much. All in favor, please. Don't question.